won't none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ the Tar Heel. And in this huddle, baby, we're going to talk about the number 1 seeded North Carolina Tar Heels taking on the 9th seeded Michigan St Spartans in the second round of the 2024 NCAA tournament in the Spectrum Center, Charlotte, North Carolina, March 23rd. At the time of this video, the time is still to be determined. Now, Sparty looked exceptional against Mississippi State as their leading scorer, Tyson Walker, scored 19 points to go along with Jaden Atkins adding 15 to beat the Mississippi State Bulldogs 69-51. And Sparty was basically in control of that game from the jump. They looked locked in. They were focused on the task at hand. And to me, they look like your typical well-coached Tom Izzo basketball team. Now, the North Carolina Tar Heels, on the other hand, they defeated the 16th seeded Wagner Seahawks 90-62, and I would say personally that the score of that game was not necessarily indicative of how things transpired. You would think with a 28-point victory that it was just kind of a massacre from the beginning, and that wasn't necessarily the case. Wagner kind of hung around a little bit too close for comfort. We never thought that Carolina was going to lose that basketball game, but it was clear that the Heels weren't necessarily locked in, dialed in, that same focus that you saw Michigan State against Mississippi State. So they had a great game plan, forcing the ball inside and letting Chef Baycock cook, but instead of running away with this one from the jump, they allowed 6 first-half turnovers, which Wagner was able to convert into 9 points off of those turnovers, and it really did help them stay too close for comfort in the ball game. It just wasn't the blowout that you would think North Carolina would have against that team. So the Heels are going to have to really lock in against Sparty because they like to jump in the passing lanes, get their hands on the ball, and turn those turnovers into obviously points off of said turnovers. So without further ado, man, let's go ahead and jump into this thing. Since 1999, UNC holds a 6-3 record against Michigan State, including beating Sparty in the 2009 national championship game. But the last time these two programs faced off, Michigan State punished the Heels 63-45 back in November of 2017, which was the following year after Carolina had won the 2017 national title. The Michigan State Spartans are led by Hall of Fame head coach Tom Izzo, who has amassed a 707 and 294 record, which is good for a 706 winning percentage in his 29 seasons at the school. He won the 2000 national championship at Michigan State, along with competing in 8 Final Fours since he's been at the school. So not too shabby, if I might add. The Spartans enter the second round of the NCAA tournament with a 20-14 overall record. And Sparty this year was 3-10 against teams that are currently in the tournament. Sparty's leading scorer is the 6'1", 185-pound senior guard Tyson Walker, who is averaging 18.2 points per game, 2.9 rebounds, and 2.9 assists. He's shooting 44.2% from the floor and 37.3% from 3. Then there's the 6'8", 220-pound senior forward Malik Hall, who's averaging 12.6 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, and 2 assists. He's shooting 52.3% from the floor and 35.1% from beyond the arc. He had 10 and 5 against Mississippi State. Then there's the 6'4", 210-pound senior guard A.J. Hoggard, who was averaging 11 points per game, 3.1 rebounds, and 5.2 assists. He's shooting 41.6% from the floor and 33.8% from 3. Hoggard had 8 points, 2 boards to go along with 8 assists in his first round matchup against Mississippi State. Next, there's the 6'4", 190-pound junior guard Jaden Atkins, who's averaging 10.2 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, and 1.2 assists. He's shooting 41.2% from the field and 36% from 3. He had 15 and 7 against the Bulldogs. And lastly, there's the 6'2", 180-pound sophomore guard, Trey Holloman, who is averaging 5.8 points per game, 1.6 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. He's shooting 46.7% from the floor and 41.8% from three. He had 5, 2, and 1 against the Bulldogs. Now, Michigan State can go about 9 to 10 deep, so you'll see some guys get extended minutes off of the bench. Sparty is averaging 73 points per game, and they're giving up 65.5 points per game. They shoot 46% from the field as a team and 36% from beyond the arc. Now, the North Carolina Tar Heels are led by the reigning ACC Coach of the Year, Hubert Davis, who was in his third year at Carolina. He's amassed a 77-30 all-time record at Carolina, good for a 720 win percentage. The Heels' leading scorer is the 6 foot, 180-pound senior guard and All-American R.J. Davis, who's averaging 21.4 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. He's shooting 43.1% from the floor and 40.6% from three. R.J. had 22 points and 2 boards against the Seahawks. Then there's the 6'11", 240-pound grad forward, Armando Bacot, who's averaging 14.1 points per game, 10.2 rebounds, and 1.5 assists. He's shooting 54.7% from the floor and 77.7% from the foul line. Mondo had an excellent game, 20-15 against Wagner. That's what you would expect as the biggest man on the floor. Then there's a 6'7", 235-pound junior forward, Harrison Ingram, who's averaging 12.1 points per game, 9 boards, and 2.2 assists. He's shooting 42.4% from the floor and 37% from beyond the arc. Harry had 9, 5, and 1 in the first round. We need him to be even more assertive with his back to the basket and trying to score. It really is going to be pivotal for him and Cormac to have good games each and every night if Carolina's going to make a deep run. Then there's the 6'5", 195-pound senior guard Cormac Ryan, who's averaging 11.2 points per game, 2.8 rebounds, and 1.3 assists. He's shooting 37.7% from the field and 34.2% from three. Cormac had 13 points against the Seahawks. And last but not least, there's the 6'1", 180-pound freshman point guard Elliot Cadeau, who's averaging 7.6 points per game, 2.2 boards, and 4.2 assists. He's shooting 42.7% from the field and only 18.2% from three. And EC did not have his best game, going scoreless with 3 rebounds, 3 assists, but he also had 4 turnovers. So we're going to need him to be better than that against Sparty for sure. Now, Carolina brings Seth Trimble, Jalen Washington, and Jalen Withers off of the bench. Withers had 16 and 10 against Wagner, came up just absolutely huge, having a double-double off the bench. So it's great to see him have a really big game like that. Hopefully he can continue it into Saturday. Now, the North Carolina Tar Heels are averaging 81.5 points per game, and they're giving up 70.2. So you know how this goes. We've taken a look at the main contributors on both rosters, and now we'll get into Russ's 3 keys to victory. And basically, one of the biggest hindrances to Carolina even blowing the Wagner Seahawks out by more was just their poor ball security. Bad passes, just not being very good with the basketball. Like we had already talked about, those turnovers that led into points off of said turnovers. So key number 1 in this basketball game, and we're going to talk about it right here. This is why. It's going to be to limit the turnovers, man. North Carolina had 6 first-half turnovers that gave Wagner 9 points off of those turnovers. That's no bueno, my friend. What's worse is that Michigan State forced 15 turnovers against Mississippi State, and they transitioned those into 29 points off of those turnovers, right? Carolina better protect that basketball or they will dig themselves into a hole. Elliot Cadeau had 3 assists to 4 turnovers. That's less than a 1-for-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. Not good enough, bro. He needs to be no worse than 2-to-1 on his assist to turnover ratios if Carolina is going to be successful against better competition. Additionally, the Heels need to be crisp and intentional with their passes. Too many times Carolina just threw that ball away, especially in the earlier stages of the game when they had opportunities to kind of blow the wheels off the game early. Allowing Sparty to jump passing lanes and get out into transition is a recipe for disaster, as we see what they did against the Bulldogs. So key number one, man, you have got to protect the basketball. You cannot be sloppy with your passes. You need to be crisp, and you need to protect the rock. Key number two, you got to stay in front of Tyson Walker. Now, that's an easier task said than done for sure, right? But Carolina has to find a way to keep him out of the lane, man. Not only was Walker exquisite in finding a shot on the dribble drive, what was even more dangerous than that was the defense collapsing down on him inside the paint and his ability to find open shooters for spot-ups. Great looks, bro. And they killed Mississippi State by having Walker get into the lane and just having people camping out right there on the baseline, right out there on the sideline, man, just waiting for him to kick it out. Carolina's got to keep Walker in front of them. If he consistently gets inside, it's going to be trouble. Have to stay in front of Walker for Carolina to win the Charlotte tournament. And key number three, Carolina's got to be well-rounded, man. This game cannot turn into the RJ Davis show. Carolina needs to be balanced. Inside out, let Chef Baycott cook. Then when he's finished cooking, he can dish it out to RJ, Harry, and Cormac. You guys like what I did right there? The guards need to be aggressive to the bucket and not settling for outside shots. There's nothing wrong with a good look outside, but don't settle for a contested outside shot. Let's get to the free throw line in this one. Not saying that we're not going to be looking and taking those good-looking threes, but let's not settle for them either. We need another game where at least 4 guys are in double figures to secure this victory. You better be ready to take Sparta, bro, because you know that they're going to battle, and that'll take us to Russ's score prediction. Now, the North Carolina Tar Heels have won 8 of their last 9 games with the sole defeat to State in the ACC championship game. There were many individuals aside from myself that did not think Carolina was focused from the onset. Fast forward to their opening round matchup against a beleaguered Wagner team, and they still did not look dialed in entirely. This is Carolina's last home game of the season, if you will. It's in Charlotte. This is our backyard, right? You lose, you're out. You win, you travel to Los Angeles before hopefully making a trip over to Phoenix for the Final Four. The Spectrum Center should be no less than 75% Tar Heel Nation, and they will be the 6th man, and they will will this North Carolina team to the Sweet 16 as the Heels will find themselves in a fist fight. It's going to be a close one, Tar Heel Nation, but Carolina's talent wins out in the very end. Give me the Tar Heels in a close basketball game, 78-74, in what will be the best second-round game in the tournament. So let me know what you think about my score prediction down in the comment section. Tar Heel and Sparty Nation. Am I on to something? Or is your boy over here on the bench with my bifocals on, just happy to stink and be here? Whether you are a Tar Heel fan or not, if you are a college basketball fan, if you haven't already, man, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Share this video to your fellow Tar Heels and Spartans and subscribe to the channel. Now, I'll let you guys know what's going to happen with the live stream as soon as we find out what time the actual game is going to be. I'm looking forward to this one, baby. Second round, Carolina, Michigan State. Doesn't get much better than that, baby. Looking forward to it. We'll see you on Saturday, Tar Heel Nation.